My screen is visible to all of you? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now we have discussed up till now the concept of residential status and how to compute the residential status of an individual. Now today we are going to discuss the residential status for the Hindu undivided family, company, firm, and the other assessees. So this much we have already discussed, the questions we have discussed, and in this particular question, I think we had the problem in problem number 7, right? This one. So in just give me take 1 minute and explain it to you. Okay. So now in this particular problem number 7, if we say that 40 years is a citizen of India, so he is satisfying the condition. He leaves India for the first time on 31st July 2019 for the purpose of working on an overseas project of his Indian employer company. He finally comes back on 28 2020. So this particular point is important. So in this case, if he would have come for a visit to India, that he would have come to meet his parents and family, etc. So then, in that particular scenario, this 60 days exemption, that is the special case 2, we would have put him. So, in that particular situation, when we talk about the special case 1, when a person member of Indian ship or leaving country for employment purposes, so he is covered under special case 1, and the person of Indian origin is covered under special case 2. So in this particular case, the person is required to be declared as resident for 182 days. That is the first basic condition is to be satisfied. So he has been in India for 60 days, and during earlier years, he was more than 365 days. But so he will be considered resident in India because the exemption of special case 1 of 182 days is not being given because he has not come to India for a visit. He has come for the final settlement and he has been abroad for employment purposes, but he has not come back to India for the visit. So in this case, we have to remember this thing. अदरवाइज अगर वो विजिट के लिए आता तो हम ये एग्जाम्पशन स्पेशल केस 1 में इंक्लूड करते, और अगर वो बाहर लेजर ट्रिप के लिए जाता हम तब भी उसको स्पेशल केस 1 में इंक्लूड नहीं करते. राइट? इज इट क्लियर? Okay. Now let's go to the determination of residential status. I hope the remaining problem which I have shared with you, problem number 9, 10, 11, and 12, you were able to solve. If there is any confusion or you want any particular problem you want me to explain or discuss, we can discuss after completing this particular chapter. We will be keeping a revision or discussion class for the same. Right? Now, after this, we have the how to find out the residential status of HUF. Now, in this particular case, when we talk about the residential status of Hindu undivided family, now in this particular situation, what happens that when we talk about the structure of the Hindu undivided family, in that particular scenario, there is a requirement that the particular family business, the people, the members of the particular family becomes the partners or earns the income in Hindu undivided family by virtue of their birth in the family. Now, in that particular situation, when we talk about the management, then the head of the particular family, known as Karta, takes the decision. So now, when we say about from the residential status point of view, so in this case, the residential status would depend upon where is the control and management of the particular business. So in this case, if the control and management of the particular business is completely outside India, then in that case the particular Hindu divided family business would be known as the non-resident. But if it is wholly or partially in India, then in that case it will be considered as the resident in India. And for the residential status to be ROR or RNOR, the stay of the Karta will be checked for the table B conditions. So that I'll let me explain to you here. Give me a second. Yes. So when we talk about the residential status, of HUF. So we have to understand it from the point of view that this is divided into again the resident and non-resident, and it would depend upon the control and management of affairs of HUF. If these are wholly or partially in India, then it would be said as resident. And if it is control and management is 100% outside India, so it will be declared as non-resident. Is it clear? Right? Now, when the particular HUF is declared as resident, then we have to see that whether it is ROR or RNOR. For this thing, we have to see table B conditions by Karta. That is who is the head of the family. And if you remember table B conditions of individual, so table B condition says, the first condition says that he is resident for 2 years out of 10 years in the previous years immediately preceding the previous year, and second says 730 days out of 7 years in 7 years immediately preceding the relevant previous year. The remaining condition that it should not be at one place, physical presence is required, day of arrival and day of departure can be any place in India, continuous or non-continuous period, everything remains same. The only thing which we have to understand in the case of the residential status of HUF is that where is the control and management of affairs of the HUF, that is the Hindu undivided family business. So जरूरी नहीं है कि the Karta is in India or Karta is outside India. If the Karta is outside India and he has delegated the authority and the day-to-day affairs or control and management is taking place in India, so it means it will be taking place in India. So in that particular scenario, we have to understand that where the control and management of the Hindu undivided family business is taking place. And if we talk about the control and management, so it says that it is situated at a place where the head or the seat, the directing power is situated. The mere fact that the family has a house in India, or mere some of the members residing in India, or Karta is in India during the previous year, does not mean that control and management is in India, until unless whatever the decisions with respect to the family, with respect to the business are to be taken place, at what place these are being taken, that is important. So for that thing, the physical presence of the Karta or a few members or the house situation in India is not considered. It is considered that where the decision making or the controlling power is there situated. And further, if the controlling power is wholly or partially in India, the HUF business will be considered as resident in India. And if it is considered as resident in India, then whether it is ROR resident, or we can say the ordinary resident, or resident but not ordinarily resident, then in that particular situation, the situation or the stay or the satisfaction of the table B condition by Karta will be checked. So if he satisfy both the conditions, so it will be declared ROR. If he satisfy less than two condition, it will be declared RNOR. So I hope this is clear to all of you. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just let me show you the solution here. When we talk about the table, that when HUF is considered resident or non-resident, so in this particular case, if the control and management is wholly in India, the resident, wholly outside India, the non-resident, partly in India, partly outside India, तो resident हो जाएगा. And further, whether ROR or RNOR, it would depend upon the satisfaction of the additional conditions बाय करता, दैट इज 2 out of 10 प्रीवियस ईयर, अगर वो रेजिडेंट रहा है और 730 days in 7 previous year रहा है, तो all these conditions we have discussed in much detail, so I am not going to discuss these conditions in detail again. So here it is mentioned control and management. Control and management means where the directing power is situated, but the mere fact of the family that has a house in India or some members are residing in India does not constitute that place as the seat of control. It means that where the decision concerning the affair of the family are taken, that particular place will decide that whether it is in India or outside India. So after this, there is a small practical problem that you can just go through. I will share the notes. And then after that, we come to that how to determine residential status of a firm or an association of persons. Then we will move towards the company. Okay, now we talk about the residential status of a firm or association of persons. Now in this particular case we have to remember कि यहाँ पे या तो वो रेजिडेंट होगी फर्म या नॉन रेजिडेंट होगी, because these have the separate entity, so it does not have the physical presence, etc. So either the status would be of the resident or would be of non-resident. तो अगर control and management wholly or partially in India है तो वो resident हो गया, and if it is control and management 100% is outside India, then it would be declared as non-resident. Is it clear? And control and management means the same, that where the decisions and the daily operations and the control of power is situated. Right? Now let's move further for the residential status of our company. Now when we talk about the residential status of a company, then there is the division again in terms of a resident or non-resident, right? And we have to also understand that the company can be an Indian company or can be a foreign company. So when we talk about the Indian company, so a company which is registered in India under any of the acts, so that will be considered as an Indian company. And if a particular company is registered as an Indian company, would always be considered as resident in India. And if we talk about the foreign company, then in that particular case, the foreign company is divided on the basis of its turnover or gross receipts during the previous year. So we can say the gross receipts or turnover. If it is more than 50 crores, then in that particular case the we have to see about the control and management. So if the gross receipts are more than 50 crores, then we have to see the control and management, and in case of a company it is called as place of effective management. So in this particular case, if the place of effective management is in India, then it will be declared as resident. And if this particular place of effective management is outside India, then it will be declared non-resident. And if the gross receipts are less than 50 crores, then it is declared non-resident. Right? So it will be when we talk about Indian company. So if a company is registered in India under any of the X Indian companies है, then it will be declared as the Indian company. Once it is declared as an Indian company, it will always be declared as resident. If it is a foreign company, it is not registered in India, but in the previous year it has done business in India. Then in that particular situation, in the we have to see the amount of the gross receipts. So if the gross receipts are less than 50 crores, so it will always be declared as non-resident. And if the gross receipts are more than 50 crores, then we have to see that where is the place of effective management of that particular company. So in that case, place of effective management would decide that if it is in India, then the company would be declared as resident. If it is outside India, the company would be declared as non-resident. So in this particular case, we say place of effective management is that wherever the key managerial decisions or control and management of the company takes place, and if the conduct of the business of entity is in the particular commercial decisions etc are being made, so in that particular case the principle says that it will be considered as place of effective management. And also the gross receipts of 50 crores, we can say that if the foreign company whose annual gross receipts are less than 50 crores cannot be resident in India from the assessment year 2017 and 18 onwards. So we have to remember these rules for the determination of residential status. And after that, the last category is any other form of organization. So if we say any other form of organization or every other person, so for every other person, it would be decided that where the control and management or the decision making is there. So if the control and management is 100% in India, then it would be declared, yeah, sorry, if the control and management 100% it's outside India, then in that case it would be declared non-resident. And if it is wholly or partially in India, then it would be declared as resident. फॉर्म वाला केस आपका सेम अप्लाई हो जाएगा. तो अगर कोई भी एनी अदर पर्सन जिसका कंट्रोल और मैनेजमेंट होली और पार्टली इंडिया में है ड्यूरिंग द रेलिवेंट प्रीवियस ईयर, तो वो रेजिडेंट हो जाएगा. और अगर 100% आपका बाहर है तो उस केस में वो, आउटसाइड इंडिया है तो उस केस में वो नॉन रेजिडेंट हो जाएगा. सो दैट्स अबाउट दी determination of residential status of different assessees. Now we have to understand the concept or relationship of residential status in residential status and incidence of tax. Okay. So now when we talk about the incidence of tax, so अभी तक हमने डिस्कस किया that the person will be declared resident on the basis of we can say that the different categories and subject to satisfaction of required conditions. Okay, so the person will be declared resident, or we can say ROR or RNOR, or the person will be declared non-resident. When I am using the word person, so I am saying that person can be an individual, a firm, association of person, a company, or any other person, right? So these two broad categories are there that the person would be declared resident or non-resident. Now why we determine this residential status? Why, what is the need? So in the last classes also we have discussed that we compute the income, or we compute the tax on total income, which is also called as the taxable income. So when we talk about the taxable income, so in the taxable income we consider that which particular income would be taxable or which income would be included, right? So inclusion of different income in the total income is called as incidence of tax. When we talk about incidence of tax, it means कि जो इनकम प्रीवियस ईयर में एक एसएससी ने अर्न करी है, उस इनकम के ऊपर टैक्स लगेगा या नहीं लगेगा, उस इनकम को हम टोटल इनकम में इंक्लूड करेंगे या नहीं करेंगे. एंड द वेरी फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ ऑफ इनकम, if you remember, we said that every person who has earned the income during the relevant previous year, which is more than the maximum exemption limit, would be taxed in the assessment year on the basis of the rates given in the assessment year, and the total income would be computed on the basis of the residential status of the assessee. So that paragraph we have discussed, from where we have derived the definition of the person, previous year, meaning of income, meaning of assessment year, and we have discussed about the rate of tax given by the Finance Act, and we have then moved towards the determination of the residential status, right? So this incidence of tax says that a person who has earned the income, whether the particular income would be included for the tax purposes or not. So for this, the broad category is that the income is divided into two categories. One is the Indian income, and the second one is the foreign income. Indian income and foreign income. So if a person is earning the particular income, what is the Indian income? We will discuss in detail. The income which is received in India, which is deemed to be received in India, which is earned in India, which is deemed to be earned in India, or which has its source in India, which has its business connection in India, or we can say that this is from the profession which has been set up in India, right? So on these basis, the income would be regarded as the Indian income. तो चाहे वो रेजिडेंट हो, रेजिडेंट में भी ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट हो, नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट हो, या नॉन रेजिडेंट हो, राइट? उसका रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस कुछ भी हो, अगर वो पर्टिकुलर इनकम इंडियन इनकम क्लासिफाई हो जाती है, देन इट इज टैक्सेबल इन इंडिया. अगर आपने प्रीवियस ईयर में वो इनकम अर्न करी है, तो आपका कुछ भी रेजिडेंशियल स्टेटस है, चाहे वो ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट का है, नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट का है, नॉन रेजिडेंट का है, उस इनकम के ऊपर आपको इंडिया में टैक्स देना पड़ेगा. लेकिन अगर वो आपकी फॉरेन इनकम है, तो उस फॉरेन इनकम पे इफ द असेसी इज डिक्लेयर्ड एज नॉन रेजिडेंट, देन इट इज नॉट taxable in India. So it means that when we talk about the residential status, so we have discussed the condition of 182 days, we have discussed the conditions of 60 days and 365 days, and we have discussed that an assessee is required to satisfy minimum one condition of table A, that is 182 days or 60 plus 365 days, and then if he is declared resident, he'll have to pay tax, and if he is declared non-resident, he'll not have to pay tax. Then the further exceptions, and then we have also discussed that if he is declared a resident, तो उसमें 60 days वाली condition कौन सी सिचुएशंस में अप्लाई नहीं होगी, दैट इज आपकी एक्सेप्शन. सो एवरीवेयर when you will study the personal tax planning paper, so you will study that how the arrival of a particular individual or a particular assessee is decided in such a way that his total number of days of stay does not exceed 181 days, because else he will be declared resident and he'll have to pay tax on his Indian income as well as foreign income. So it means that if we go to the conditions, so we say that an assessee, if he is ROR, then he is required to pay tax on all his income. If the particular assessee is declared as ROR, तो इस उसकी इनकम चाहे इंडियन इनकम है या फॉरेन इनकम है, ठीक है? उस पे वो सारी की सारी इनकम उसकी टोटल इनकम में इंक्लूड होगी और वो टैक्सेबल हो जाएगी. बट इफ द असेसी इज रेजिडेंट एंड नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट, इन दैट पर्टिकुलर केस उसकी इंडियन इनकम पे तो टैक्सेबल होगा, राइट? इंडियन इनकम टैक्सेबल होगी, लेकिन उसकी कुछ इनकम जो आपकी फॉरेन इनकम है, लेकिन वो बिजनेस और कंट्रोल्ड आउटसाइड इंडिया है, तो उसके अंदर होली आउटसाइड इंडिया है, तो उस पर भी टैक्सेबल नहीं होगा. ओनली जो इनकम आपकी इंडिया से बिजनेस कनेक्शन है और उससे रिलेटेड है, उसी के ऊपर उसका टैक्स होगा. सिमिलरली इफ देयर इज, इफ वी टॉक अबाउट द नॉन रेजिडेंट, तो नॉन रेजिडेंट की जो इंडियन इनकम है, इसके अंदर इसमें फॉरेन इनकम में पार्शली टैक्सेबल होगा और पार्शली नॉट टैक्सेबल होगा. We will discuss it later class. Then if it is a non-resident, so if it is his Indian income, this is going to be taxable, and if it is a foreign income, it is not taxable. Means वो taxable income और total income में include नहीं होगा. Is it clear up till now? Let's discuss a table first, and then we will move towards the detailed discussions or practical of this particular portion. So up till now we have discussed the determination of residential status of HUF. Then we have discussed the determination of residential status of a firm and association of person. So we have discussed this thing. Presentation of rules or explanation might be little different, but the rule remains the same. Then we about a company we have discussed. Please just read this second para. Please read this second para, this first, second, and third. If any clarifications needed, just let me know. Yes, please. Any query? Yes, no? Bhargav, good morning.
Ma'am.
Good morning, Vita. Joined after a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
All well?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I was out of town. Sorry.
Okay, okay, Vita. Okay. Just take the share your email ID. I'll share with you the notes. Classroom पे सारे notes uploaded हैं, and just go through the initial lectures. And if you face any problem, contact me in person.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, is it clear? So are you able to make connect with what we are discussing today, or a little difficult? No worries. Okay. Then we have discussed about how to determine the residential status of every other person, right? Then after this, we have to understand the Indian income and foreign income concept. So when we talk about the Indian income, so Indian income we have discussed received or deemed to be received in India, accrue or arise or deemed to accrue or arise in India during the previous year, or income is received or deemed to received in India. These details we'll discuss abhi. Then foreign income is that which is not received or deemed to be received in India, or which does not accrue or arise in India. We'll discuss the concept of what do we understand by the deemed to accrue or arise in India. The only thing which we have to understand here is that if the person is declared एज रेजिडेंट एंड ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट, अगर वो रेजिडेंट और ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट है तो उसकी कोई भी इनकम है, चाहे वो इंडियन इनकम है या फॉरेन इनकम है, वो सारी की सारी इंडिया में टैक्सेबल होगी. इफ द असेसी इज रेजिडेंट बट नॉट ऑर्डिनरी रेजिडेंट, तो इंडियन इनकम तो टैक्सेबल होगी होगी, लेकिन फॉरेन इनकम के अंदर कुछ सिलेक्टिव इनकम टैक्सेबल होगी, दैट विल डिस्कस. In case of non-resident, Indian income would be taxable in India, and in case of foreign income, it is not taxable in India. So this we have to understand. Now let's move to and understand the concept of the what do we understand by the Indian income and foreign income. Up till now, you people are comfortable what we have discussed up till now? Yes, you can write down in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now let's discuss about the different types of income. The very first income is known as the Indian income, right? So if we talk about the Indian income, so whether the assessee is resident, ordinary resident, not ordinary resident और नॉन रेजिडेंट, उनके केस में ये सारी की सारी इनकम जो है आपकी टैक्सेबल होनी ही होनी है. So the very first category is considered as income which is received in India or deemed to be received in India, right? The very first is income received or deemed to be received in India, whether earned in India or outside India. Right? I write received as RVD or outside as oblique S. So I hope you understand these abbreviations. Now, when we say income received or deemed to be received in India, so इसका मतलब कि जो इनकम है वो आपकी इंडिया में आपने रिसीव करी है, चाहे वो आपने इंडिया में अर्न करी है या बाहर अर्न करी है. इसका मतलब जो सोर्स और जो रिसिप्ट है वो आपका इंडिया में है, राइट? सो इट मीन्स कि अगर आपने इनकम इंडिया में रिसीव करी तो उस केस के अंदर वो इनकम आपकी इंडियन इनकम मानी जाएगी. इट डज नॉट मीन दैट द इनकम इज अर्न आउटसाइड इंडिया, बट अगर उसका कोई ओरिजिन और उसका सोर्स इंडिया में है कि अगर आप वो इनकम इंडिया में रिसीव कर रहे हो तो वो इंडिया आपकी इनकम इंडिया में मानी जाएगी. In this particular case, if I can say, we can discuss the concept कि रिसिप्ट और रेमिटेंस में क्या फ़र्क होता है. रिसिप्ट होती है कि जब आप इनकम को फर्स्ट टाइम रिसीव कर रहे हो, और रेमिटेंस क्या होता है कि आप रिसीव कर चुके हो and you are remitting it to someone else. So that particular thing is required. And when we talk about the concept of deemed to be received, तो आप मेरे से क्वेश्चन पूछ सकते हो कि मैम रिसीव तो समझ में आ गया कि डायरेक्ट हमने जो चीज़ रिसीव करी उसको वो हम समझ सकते हैं कि वी हैव रिसीव दैट इनकम, बट व्हाट डू वी कंसिडर्ड एज अ डीम टू रिसीव. इट मीन्स कि अभी आपको वो इनकम मिली नहीं है, किसी फ्यूचर टाइम में मिलेगी, लेकिन वो इनकम आपकी प्रीवियस ईयर में ही आपकी टैक्सेबल होगी, या जब भी हमने उसकी टैक्सेबल इनकम या टोटल इनकम निकाली तो उसके अंदर वो इनकम हमने इंक्लूड कर दी. तो व्हाट डज इट मीन? इसका मतलब क्या होता है कि यस यू हैव सम क्वेरी. Yes, beta, ask your query.
Ma'am, do you mean to say that it is accrued?
Accrued तो अभी हम नेक्स्ट पॉइंट में करेंगे. रिसीव्ड का मतलब होता है कि दैट वी हैव रिसीव्ड और वी हैव गॉट द राइट टू रिसीव दैट इनकम, right? So for example, Mr. A is working in a firm, right? And he is receiving, he is entitled to receive a salary. ठीक है. So in this particular case, A's salary is considered as received in India. ठीक है. सो इट मीन्स ही हैज गॉट द राइट, चाहे उसको सैलरी अभी बाद में मिले, नेक्स्ट मंथ मिले या उसकी ड्यू है, बट ही हैज गॉट द राइट टू, ही हैज got or he has received that salary in India. ठीक है. In this particular case, the A might be working abroad or A might be working the in one particular place, but उसकी सैलरी कहाँ मिल रही है, उसको इंडिया में मिल रही है, तो वो इंडियन इनकम मानी जाएगी. And if we talk about deemed to be received, so you must have heard about that in case of salary, there are certain deduction on account of provident fund, there are certain deduction on account of tax, etc. So when there is a deduction on account of provident fund, so every month this particular deduction is done from the salary, but it will be given when the person leave the job or at the time of the superannuation. So it means he will get the money after certain years, but when we include the salary for that particular year, so we consider that how much salary he is entitled to receive. So we consider the gross salary figure for calculation of the tax amount. So in that case, the PF amount which is being credited to his account every month, he has not received, but it is considered as deemed to be received. Similarly, there are certain other aspects or certain other kind of similar income which the particular employee has got the right, but he will be receiving in some future year or at some future date. So these kind of similar incomes are considered as deemed to be received. So you don't have to go into much detail as of now. You just have to understand the concept that income received or deemed to be received in India, whether earned in India or outside India, would be considered as an Indian income. The second point says, that is, let me take a new page. When I teach at college, so there is a complete whiteboard, and that whiteboard too I have to rub for 3 to 4 times in the class. I write a lot. Okay, so when we talk about the second point, it says income accrues or earned or deemed to accrue or earned in India whether received in India or outside India. Right? So now in this particular case, the income is earned in India or considered as income deemed to be earned in India. तो चाहे वो आपको इंडिया में रिसीव हो या बाहर रिसीव हो, अगर earned in India means the source of that particular income is in India, that is considered as earned in India. तो चाहे वो आपकी इंडिया में अर्न हुई है या डीम टू बी इंडिया में अर्न हुई है, वो इंडियन इनकम ही मानी जाएगी, चाहे आप उसे इंडिया में रिसीव करो या इंडिया से बाहर रिसीव करो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, A is now settled in Germany, right? And he is receiving pension from his job in government in India, right? Now in this case, A is receiving pension in Germany, right? But he is receiving for the services, past services rendered in India. It will be considered as deemed to be earned in India. चाहे वो अब इंडिया में नहीं है, he is not rendering his services, but the source of income is from India, so it will be considered as deemed to be earned in India. Similarly, अगर उसका direct है, that he is drawing his salary from a particular job, he is rendering his services in India, it would be considered as income earned in India. सो इट मीन्स कि अगर इनकम आपकी इंडिया में अक्रू हुई है या अर्न हुई है या डीम टू बी अक्रू और अर्न हुई है इंडिया में उस पर्टिकुलर इनकम का जो सोर्स ऑफ इनकम है वो इंडिया में है, तो वो इंडियन इनकम मानी जाएगी. इन अनदर सिचुएशन इफ वी टॉक अबाउट डीम टू बी अर्नड इन इंडिया, तो डीम टू बी अर्नड इन इंडिया के भी बहुत सारे केसेस और एग्जाम्पल हैं विच वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. आई एम जस्ट नाउ डिस्कसिंग अर्न इन इंडिया का, तो डायरेक्ट हो गया कि सोर्स ऑफ इनकम है. बट व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट डीम्ड टू बी अर्न और डीम्ड टू अक्रू इन इंडिया, तो उसका क्या 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 सिचुएशन हो सकती है डीम्ड टू बी अर्न और अक्रूड इन इंडिया. So in this particular case, first thing is that if there is any business connection in India. For example, if we talk about there are certain MNCs, these MNCs set up certain things where they outsource any particular part of the business or particular project, right? So that particular business is connected to India. So in that case, if there is any business connection in India, then in that case it will be considered as the income on deemed to earned in India. तो वो कब मानी जाएगी बिजनेस कनेक्शन इन इंडिया, कि जब वो आपका टैक्स पेयर बिजनेस कनेक्शन है इंडिया में, और बिकॉज ऑफ दिस वर्च्यू of business connection you are getting the income outside India. So in this particular case, as I told you, that MNC is outside India and you have outsourced certain kind of part of business or project, and because of that particular project you are earning income outside India, but this particular income is being earned because of the business connection in India, so it will be considered as deemed to be earned in India. For example, if there is ABC Bank and they have after sale services or the customer grievances, for that thing they had set up a particular company in India, and they are taking care of as we all of us are aware of about the call centers or the particular project. So there the business, the income earned from that particular credit card division, etc., or for that particular portion will be considered as income earned in India. So that particular thing is considered as income deemed to accrue or arise outside India. Then further examples can be that if you are purchasing the raw material, or you have set up some factory where a particular part of a whole product or the whole we can say assembly line is being prepared in India, and then you are using that particular part and making the complete product and selling abroad. So in that particular case, that is also considered as business connection in India. If you have set up any subsidiary company, if you have settled any other company, so in all these situations it would be considered as business connection in India. Now in certain situation where we say that at certain relations are there, but that particular thing is considered as business is not connected. So these things or these examples we also have to understand. For example, all the operations are not carried out in India, then in that particular case only that part of income which is related to that particular project or that particular item or that particular part of the complete project, that part of the income will be considered. Whole of the income cannot be taxed. Part of the income would be regarded as the Indian income. Similarly, if the goods are being produced or being purchased for export purposes, so for the promotion of the export or to have more foreign exchange to the country, if the certain particular goods are being purchased or produced for the export purposes, then it would not be regarded as business connection in India. If there is collection of news and views which are to be published in any of the newspaper, journal, or any news channel, etc., then in that particular case, it is not regarded as the business connection in India. Similarly, if any movie, etc., or film is being, carried on, and the purpose is to tell about the culture or certain conditions are satisfied with respect to the promotion of the Indian culture or country, then in that case it is not regarded, any income generated from such movie or film is not regarded as the income from business connection in India. Similarly, if there are any fund management activities and the eligible fund manager is acting on behalf of such fund, shall not be considered as business connection in India. So their fund management activity would be there. Then after that, if there is a display of unassorted diamond in a special notified zone, then in that case, if it is a foreign company which is engaged in business of mining of diamonds, no income shall be considered which are confined to the display of uncut or assorted diamond in the particular special zone notified by the central government. So in that case, it is not considered as business connected in India. So these are the examples where it will be considered as business connection in India and business not connected in India. So you have to remember, because when we'll do the practical questions, we'll discuss that which particular type of income would be included in the taxable income and which particular income would not be treated as the practical taxable in the particular income. Then other than business connection, there are another examples that if you have some property in India and later on you are receiving some rental income, or you are selling off that particular property and you are generating the income, but you are settled abroad and you are receiving income there. So because the property is situated in India, the source of income is in India, that will be considered as deemed to accrue or arise in India. So it will be treated as the Indian income only, right? Then if there is the transfer of property, any income from the property or any income from the transfer of property, that would be regarded as the Indian income. And if you are talking about the in case you are getting the income under the head salaries, as I have told you about the pension and all, or you are residing abroad but you are getting the income from the Indian government, then in that case the income would be considered as earned in India. Similarly, if you are receiving the dividend income from Indian company, though it is in the hands of the shareholder, it is exempt, but in certain situation we have to understand, so it will be considered as the dividend income, will be considered as the Indian income. Now there comes the three more points which we consider as the income by way of interest, royalty and technical fee. So if I use the word interest income, royalty income, and in form of the technical fee. So whether it is the Indian income or not, it would depend upon from whom it is received and for which purpose it is being used. Right? So on that basis, it would be decided that whether it is Indian income or not. So if I say that interest income is that income that when we have given the loan, we are receiving the interest on the loan given. Royalty, that if we have given certain kind of we can say the written work or artwork, so you are receiving the royalty. And technical fee is for the consultation etc. given for the same. So when we talk about the interest income, royalty income or technical fee, so meaning of the all the three terms we are aware of. Now we have to see that from whom it is being received, right? So when we say that it is being received from government, be it the central government or be it from state government, it will be considered as an Indian income. It is considered as deemed to accrue or arise in India. Deemed to accrue or arise in India, right? And if it is received, if we say that be it in form of interest, royalty, or technical fee, and if it is being given for the, if we say that the money, if it is we talk about the interest, or if we talk about the royalty, we say about the knowledge, etc., or if we talk about the technical fee, so that consultancy, etc. So we see that if this is being used for the business set up in India, it would be regarded as the Indian income. And if it is this money, knowledge, or consultancy for which you have received the interest, royalty, or technical fee, and if it is used for the business or any activity carried out outside India, then it will be considered as income earned outside India. So, to be in India, we have to use that particular business, knowledge, or consultancy for the business set up in India, right? And if it is received from a non-resident, one second, yeah, in the second case, it was that first case was that from whom it is being received. First one was from the government, and second one was from a resident Indian, and the third one is from a non-resident, from a non-resident. So in this case, again, if the taxpayer is using this particular money which is being utilized for the business in India, or for the business and profession carried in any income in India, it will be considered as deemed to be in India. So again, business setup or earning income in India. So this will be regarded as the deemed to be accrue or arise in India, and as a result, it will be considered as an Indian income, right? And interest received outside India by a foreign bank from its branch in India, it will be considered as deemed to accrue or arise in India. तो अगर आपको कोई interest foreign bank से मिल रहा है, interest from a foreign bank, and the branch is in India, so it will be regarded as deemed to accrue or arise in India. So this you have to remember. Then after that, I think this deemed to accrue or arise in India concept is over. After this, we can discuss about the remaining types of income and how we calculate the practicals out of this, that we can discuss later on. Let me just show you quickly the mm, yeah, what is receipt of income, then receipt versus accrual, actual receipt or deemed receipt, what is accrual in income, income from business connection, under what circumstances it would be regarded as business connection, and under what circumstances it would not be regarded as business connections. Then after that, we have discussed an income from house property, an income from transfer from assets, income from salary, income payable by the Indian government to the citizen of India, dividend paid by Indian income, income by way of interest, royalty and technical fee. तो पहला हमने डिस्कस किया कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट और स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, सेकेंड हमने डिस्कस किया फ्रॉम अ रेजिडेंट पर्सन whom considered India. थर्ड हमने डिस्कस किया फ्रॉम अ नॉन रेजिडेंट पर्सन deemed to accrue or arise in India. Then after that, the meaning of royalty, etc., is being given, and the remaining concepts we are going to discuss in the next class. So I hope concepts are clear to all of you now.